My name is Sheryl Paynter. For those who don't know me, I'm the lead lender relations specialist for the SBA New Jersey District Office. I just want to give a shout out to John Blackstock, the Deputy District Director, and Al Titone, the Director of the New Jersey District Office, who are both on the line. Thank you for attending, of course. John will actually be assisting me should I run into any issues, because I'm learning this presentation as well. It's very fresh, and I just want to make sure that I give everyone the information that they're asking. Also, just to throw it out there, if anybody does contact me after on their individual situation, most answers will be through the customer service. However, if anybody's asking about generalities on the PowerPoint, I'm more than happy to answer. So let me just start with, here we go. What is the RRF? Applications through the American Rescue Plan Act. It established the RRF, and funds must be used no later than March 11th, 2023. And I would like to give folks, and if you could put it through the chat, Kate, that if there's any specific questions, there is a hotline that is manned from 8 to 8, Monday through Friday. And if you call outside of that time, you can leave a message during the off hours and you will get an answer back. What has occurred is they've really manned up this help desk, and the phone number is 1-844-279-8898. That's 844-279-8898. So what I'm doing is just giving a general overview of what RRF is. Our first question is, who is eligible? Who is eligible are basically people in the food and beverage industry that have an on-site location. And if they are not 100% for the food or beverage, they have to have at least 33% of their gross receipts as on-site sales to the public. So this is pretty inclusive. We have gotten some questions. If a grocery store has a restaurant, can they take away the grocery piece? That was fine if the restaurant was suffering. And as long as they have the same EIN number, you can't just take away a piece of the business in order to qualify. So I want to make sure people know that, because that's a biggie. Another question we've gotten is if the management company has an EIN number, and then there's separate EIN numbers for the entities under it, the management company can apply on behalf of the underlying EINs. However, if there is no management company and they're just separate EIN numbers, then each one has to be a separate application. And okay, how much am I eligible for? You may provide funding up to $5 million, not to exceed $10 million in total for the applicated and any affiliated business. Affiliated businesses, if a business owner owns more than 51%, then that business would be considered affiliated, and it has to be 20 locations or less to be eligible. The minimum award is $1,000, and you're not eligible if your RRF grant would come like $500 or so. So you have to minimally calculate that you would be receiving at least $1,000. How is this program different from other SBA programs? You do not have to register on SAM.gov or DUNS or CAGE. And if you don't even know what that means, then really don't worry about it, because this is the usual requirement of what a business needs to apply for to obtain these types of grants. And this requirement is being done away with for the RRF. And valid unexpired ITIN. So if you are a foreign entity and it's unexpired, that would be acceptable to apply as well. Okay, entities that are ineligible would be if you had that more than 20 locations that I was mentioning, or if you have a pending application for, or if you've received a shuttered venue operator grant. If you're publicly traded, although you could be, let's say you were a franchisor and your parent was publicly traded, but you are not, then as a franchisor, you could apply, but the entity that is publicly traded cannot. If you are permanently closed, meaning that you are liquidated, you're never going to open up again, you are not eligible. Nonprofits, and as I mentioned, it has to be at least $1,000. So eligible applicants must be one of the following forms of organizations, and that's pretty self-explanatory. B corporations are eligible. And by the way, I had to look up what a B corporation was, and apparently that is an organization in which you're balancing your purpose and profits in your charter, but you would need to select either a C Corp or an S Corp, depending on how that organization is being taxed. Franchises, I mentioned it briefly, but they must be a brand that is on the SBA franchise directory. If they are not, then they do need to apply, and that would be the franchisee, the one who is in the umbrella organization overseeing the franchisors. And what they would do is they need to submit the document to franchise@sba.gov. And what will happen is the SBA reviews to make sure that they are independently owned and operated, and that there is not undue control by the franchisee, and then they would be eligible. I'm going to click on the chat as well. Okay. Is a grant counted as income by the IRS? So, John, can you answer that one? All right, so we're going to come back to that one, Maria. So some things are, I'm not sure what the IRS ruling was. You know, that is a different entity, but that is something we can look into and get back to you on that. Okay, now I'm going to hopefully, oh, there we go. So bankruptcy. So you would be eligible if you are under an approved plan of reorganization, but you're not eligible if you, again, have permanently closed, if you filed a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, and this is really because it's intended to help a restaurant get back on their feet. So how do other SBA relief programs impact? Now, this is a very important slide. The PPP funds must be subtracted from the RRF. Also, you cannot apply simultaneously for both, because then you would not be able to certify what you received in funding if you have a pending application. So that is very important, that if you're going to get a PPP loan, you have to have already gotten the loan and cannot be on any kind of pending basis, because that will be withdrawn, the amount of the PPP. And all applicants must certify that the current economic uncertainty makes the funding request necessary. And I do want to point out that the SBA will randomly pull applications in a statistically significant way to audit, and that applicant will have to provide documentation showing that they are eligible. So you really want to make sure that you have backup documentation should you ever be audited. So what are the eligible uses of funds? I want to hone in on, most of it is self-explanatory. This expansion costs are ineligible. I found that point a little unclear. So I want to make sure that if you are a restaurant and you are constructing for outdoor seating due to the pandemic in order to accommodate people, that would be eligible. The expansion costs they're referring to are more for on an expansion basis, having nothing to do with the pandemic. If you are having some type of business maintenance constructions, like maybe you're redoing your restaurant in order to comply with COVID guidelines, that would qualify, and that would be put under business maintenance expenses. The other is that your business debt, payments on any business mortgage obligation, and this would be monthly, so you can't prepay. However, you do have until March 11th, 2023 to spend all of the funds that you receive. So you could certainly earmark that you're going to utilize for P&I your monthly payments through this grant. And also this does count for payments under SBA EIDL, SBA 7A, 504, those types of loans that are done on an amortizing basis are eligible. Also, for something like credit card debt or lines of credit, that's not on an amortizing basis, so you could pay back that in full if you do have a business credit card debt out there, for example. There was a question, you can use it on marketing. And let's see. So when do I have to use the funds? I've mentioned March 11th. And let's see, another would be just the use of funds assessment. So after the total award funds have been exhausted, every year there is a self-certification that a borrower or a grant recipient is expected to self-certify. Once the funds are used up and that has been reported, you don't need to certify annually. And SBA will provide additional guidance outlining these reporting requirements in the upcoming weeks. How do I calculate? So we are going to go through 3 different calculations. And if you have multiple businesses, you can calculate based on one of these 3 for each of the businesses if they fall under one calculation and another one falls under another. So don't think that you have to use the same calculation for all of your RRF calculations. And when I use the word restaurant, I'm also referring to food trucks. I'm referring to all of the eligible applicants. I'm just using it as an abbreviation for RRF, just so nobody gets confused. So calculate calculation 1, if they were in operation prior to or on January 1st, 2019, they would take the 2019 gross receipts minus 2020 gross receipts minus the PPP loan amount. And applicants that began operations partially through 2019, they would take the average of 2019 monthly gross receipts times 12, and then they would minus that once again with the 220 gross receipts minus the PPP loan amount. Or you could utilize calculation 3. So calculation 3 is they began operations on or between January 1st, 2020 and March 10th, 2021. Applicants that have not yet opened but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11th, 2021. So when it says could require longer processing times, that's kind of your indicator that more documentation might be requested. There is a lot of vetting to make sure that all of these expenses are the expenses that actually have incurred. So that is important to keep in mind. And calculation 3. What can I exclude? So do not include. We talked about the PPP. So the Section 1112 payments, for those who might not be familiar, are payments that the SBA made on borrowers of 7A or 504 SBA loans on the borrower's behalf. EIDL falls under that, as well as EIDL Advance. Do not include as your gross receipts any state or local business grants or the Randolph-Shepard Act Financial Relief and Restoration Payment Appropriation Grant. How do I apply? So there are a few ways to apply. The first one, you can just apply directly through the SBA platform at restaurants.sba.gov. You can apply through a point of sale vendor. So there are 4 main point of sale vendors out there, which would be Square, Toast, Aloha, and Clover. The SBA is actively looking to partner with more POS providers. And actually, 2 of their Square and Toast have one way of applying, and Aloha and Clover have another way of applying. So if you are with Square or Toast, they're actually allowing their applicants to apply and submit directly through the application through Square and Toast. So they are going, you can apply directly through them. When it comes to Aloha or Clover, what they will do is they will provide your receipts officially so that you can then apply through restaurant.sba.gov. So what is the benefit of that? Is it helps expedite the process. So if Clover and Aloha are certifying the receipts, then that's really a third-party verification that the gross receipts are valid, and that will help expedite processing. When there is a validation in which there is no third party, that is really the trigger that makes something take more time. So once again, Square and Toast, they will actually allow you, the system is set up that you don't need to use restaurants.sba.gov, and you can go directly through those providers, whereas Clover and Aloha will provide documentation that you can then utilize to apply through restaurants.sba.gov. And then what other documents do I need? Make sure you have your 2019 tax return. In the best world, you would have your 2020 tax return. But if you don't, having that point of sale vendor report, as I had mentioned, will help expedite. You can produce on your own. It is going to take more time, but as you're going to have to provide documentation. The other thing that you are going to have to do is provide 3 months of bank statements as to where the funding is going to get deposited. And the reason this is being done is to help prevent fraud. So just a heads up that that's going to be requested. And let's see. So the other thing that you could do is that if you have externally or internally prepared financial statements, you could request a CPA support letter, and that will help expedite the process because that will be a third party that verified. So if you're doing your own P&L, highly recommended to get a CPA support letter that will really help expedite your application. Okay, and actually halfway down this slide does talk about the CPA comfort letter that it provides comfort to the SBA. What documents do I need? If you are applicants that are a brew pub, tasting room, tap room, etc., you have to evidence that on-site sales to the public comprise at least 33% of gross receipts for 2019. It is understood that in 2020, you may not have had on-site sales to the public comprising at least 33%. But for 2019, you need to have had that as the barometer to be able to be eligible. Let's see. For applicants that are in, documents need to evidence, once again, that sales of food and beverage comprised at least 33% of gross receipts for 2019. This is a Restaurant Revitalization Fund grant, so it's really making sure that those are valid applicants. How do I get help in applying? Call center hotline. I had mentioned that at the beginning of the program, and this PowerPoint will be sent out. And there are 30 different languages that people can get help in. So if you are not, your native tongue is not English, you can get assistance with 30 other languages. And just the best practices, I just want to review that to provide the complete documentation. Applicants with incomplete documentation will be rejected, or you will just be sitting on your, this has actually been revised a little bit. You'll be in the queue but you will be just sitting there in line while other people, applicants, are passing you. So you really need to make sure that you have a complete application. And May 3rd is when the application will be launched. So you have plenty of time to download on the Restaurant Revitalization website an application and go through. And if there's anything you're unclear on, you have the opportunity, as the hotline is up and running, to ask questions to make sure that you are able to have a full application when the time is for you to apply. Let's see. And then we mentioned that RRF applicants are advised to complete their PPP application in advance of the RRF application. When can I apply? So what's going to happen is on May 3rd, there's currently a pilot period actually right now. And what has happened is the priority folks, those businesses owned by women, veterans, and socially disadvantaged applicants, people that had self-certified, the SBA had randomly selected some applicants in order to create a pilot period to work through the glitches before the actual program opens on May 3rd. And then what happens on May 3rd, for the first 21 days, only applicants from small businesses owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged applicants will be funded during this period. I also want to highlight the LGBTQ community is considered socially disadvantaged, but they also have to prove that they were economically disadvantaged by their status in order to apply for this grant. And all eligible applicants starting on day 22 will be processed and funded until the funds are exhausted. It is expected that it will be exhausted before it is finished. So the hope is that Congress will allocate more funds, though that's never a guarantee. And once again, you must self-certify that you're 51% owned and the daily operations of the applicant are controlled by these groups. And if you have, let's say, 20% ownership of a woman, and then you have 35% of a veteran, since that adds up to more than 50% ownership, then that would be a qualifier for the grant. So it's the ownership additive to 51% or more under any of these categories. Okay, and we just went through that. The next page, entity reorganization for purposes of qualification will result in automatic disqualification of the award. So there are funding set-asides, $5 billion. You can read this on your own, but SBA reserves the right to reallocate at the discretion of the administrator. And then the last slide is basically thanking you, and I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions. I go to chat. Okay.
Hey, Cheryl,
So
while
we'll
you're doing
back.
that, while you're doing that,
Yeah.
let me make a couple of points.
Good.
So another place that folks can go for help, and this is a very good idea to do so. I'm sorry, I'm Al Tatone. I'm the district director here in New Jersey. You can go to restaurant.sba.gov. And that's actually where you're going to apply. However, you can go there Friday morning and set up an account. You cannot fill out the application at that point. I just learned this. You cannot go out there, fill out the application at this point, but you can go and get everything registered so that you're ready to go. Okay, so that's very important. And also at sba.gov/restaurant, spell it out, there's a help area, and it has a whole bunch of basically frequently asked questions. And that's going to answer pretty much anything that you have right now. They update it pretty frequently, almost like every other day. So that's a couple of things that you'll need to know right off the bat.
And Al, do you happen to know, have you heard if the IRS was going to be taxing this grant? Do you know?
Not sure what happened there. I was choking a little. What was your question?
The question is if the IRS is going to be taxing these grants.
I don't know what you mean by casting. What do you mean by casting?
No, taxing. Taxing. T-A-X. My jury.
What do you mean? Are they tasking? They're going to be reviewing them. Yes. Is that what you mean? I don't know what you mean by tasking. Or taxing. Taxing. Is that what you mean? Okay. I do not believe so. I believe that these are tax-free at the federal level, but the state may be a different thing. Right now, New Jersey is not taxing any of these programs, so I'm going to assume it's the same with this one. But to my knowledge, the IRS is not going to tax the money in here as income.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And let me just see if there's any other questions. Okay. I don't think there's any more questions. Kate?
I did not see any others come through, but I know when I send this out, I will be sure to include your contact information. So if they think of anything, they'll be able to reach out to you directly, and then also include that help number.
Do you have any idea of how many restaurants are going to be applying?
Do I?
Yeah.
And also,
many more than we can count.
Yeah. And I want to make sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, so many. Also, I want to make sure if people contact me, I can't go over the application with you, as that is an SBA kind of no-no. But what I was talking about is if any of the slides, if you went to the restaurant website and you felt something was unclear, I could see, what was, to help you get the slides clearer, but I am not able to go through an application with you. So I want to make sure that I throw that out there, because that would be preference, and kind of weird bells and whistles go off.
Yeah. And what I'll stress to everyone is register on Friday, get an account registered, get a copy of the application, which I think Sheryl shared with someone, and they will have it. And if not, she will. Have everything ready to go. I'm going to tell you right now, there are millions of restaurants across the country that are going to be applying for this. And it's one pot of money. And as Sheryl said, we don't know if they're going to put more money into it. So this is probably going to go fast, even though they're prioritizing the smaller businesses for the first 21 days. It's going to go fast. So just make sure that everybody is in there and you are ready to go. Sheryl also mentioned, and I want to stress, if you have something wrong with the application, you stop dead in your tracks. Everybody else is walking around you, you have to fix it. So you have to figure out what happened, and then you have to go in and fix it. The SBA cannot do it, even if they wanted to, but they're not enough people that we'd be able to do that. So you have to go in, you will have to fix it. So that's another thing. You want to make sure you should have all this stuff written down by Monday. You should have everything prepared. Talk with your accountants, talk with whomever. Go over the application, get everything prepared so you can enter it into the system on Monday morning. It doesn't matter how big you are. Everybody can put their application in. They're just not going to process the non-disadvantaged and whatever small businesses for the first 21 days, but everyone can put the information in.
So I just wanted to just be clear. So the SBA will begin registrations on Friday, April 30th at 9 a.m. and open applications on Monday, May 3rd, I believe at noon. Is that correct?
That is, let me just double check my notes, but I believe you are correct on the times.
That's
Monday
correct,
at
Al.
noon, the applicant, yeah, okay.
So I had posted in the chat, and I will post on the Chamber social and send it to Kate. As you mentioned, the restaurants.sba.gov, just the different official guidance, the program guide, everything that you need to get ready for Friday is all here in the chat. And we certainly have it available here at the office as well if you need it sent to you directly.
All right.
Okay. So any other questions before we get offline this afternoon? Billy, you got something?
Yeah, Cheryl. If we are, you had said that we can register through our POS, if I understood that correctly. If we're going to do that, should we still register on Friday?
No, because you can apply. Well, not all. It was just those 2 of them you can apply directly through.
I use Square, so I'm on Square.
Oh, okay. So you should be able to register on Square directly on Friday.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
And if it turns out you can't, just go to the website and do it. That
Yeah,
Friday, you're not going to have a big rush. You mean Friday, you have time. You know, you have the entire weekend basically to get your registration set up.
And Bill, reach out to me if you would, if it turns out you can't pre-register on those 2, because I want to make sure we're giving the right information. They weren't super clear about the pre-registering. I'm assuming, but I don't have actual verification.
Okay, yeah. So far, Square's been pretty consistent with that, including our PPP loan through Square and everything. So I'm pretty sure they will be on top of it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Again, we're going to put together a blog with some of this information that's going to go right on our website, and with the direct links that both Cheryl and Al had mentioned this afternoon. And again, just if you're not going through your point of sale system, which is Toast or Square, registration begins April 30th on Friday. The links are in the chat, but I'm going to put together a blog as soon as we hang up and make sure that everybody has links to all the information.
And Lori, just make sure that people who are not in a priority group know that they can pre-register, because I've gotten a lot of questions out there that sometimes people don't think that they can pre-register. They're just going to be held up before the application going through, but they can still pre-register.
Okay.
They can pre-register and put in the application. Make sure you stress that.
Yeah.
They can put the application in. It's just not going to be processed until after 21 days. I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing they will still be in the line. So they want to get the application in as quick as possible, even if they're not going to go 21 days, because I'm going to assume, I don't know this for sure, that they will be processed in the way they came, in the position they came in after this preferred businesses have their shot.
Sure. Okay, we'll get that information out there. And of course, thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon. We just wanted businesses to be able to have the most opportunity possible. And of course, we'll have this recording and we will send that out to the other groups that have RSVP'd as well.
Great, great. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks again. Okay. Bye, guys.